A sleek elven ship enters the mouth of the great river of Lustria. It is not a large ship, but a merchant vessel fitted out for an expedition. On board are a company of elven soldiers belonging to the same merchant kindred. Their leader stands at the prow. His name is Syrian, and already he has gained a reputation in Ulthuan as an intrepid explorer. Syrian's obsession is the mysterious land of Lustria. His interest in the wealth of this exotic land is superficial. That is what motivates his men, and that is why the merchant kindred financed the expedition. Syrian, however, has another motive for exploring the interior. He searches for secrets and hidden knowledge. The ship glides effortlessly up the great river, the breeze blowing it against the current. The mist rises from the waters, and the distant riverbanks, swathed in jungle, appear blue on the horizon. It is a glimpse of a remote age, a time before mankind, the dawn of the age of the elf and dwarf empires. But for the hidden dwellers of the rainforest, it is the dawning of a new age, a time of contact with outsiders, new races of which their prophecies speak. The progress of the elf expedition is being watched. Eventually, the sleek ship reaches the headwaters of the mighty river. Its shallow draught enables it to penetrate the reed-choked creeks between the menacing mangroves. The river is narrow here. After a while, the ship runs aground. Syrian debates with his officers. It is decided to try and drag the ship over the mudbanks to the swamps and pools beyond. All the ship's company labour under the hot tropical sun, dragging the ship inch by inch across the mud. Elves with keen eyesight and powerful bows shoot arrows at the crocodiles as their comrades trudge thigh-deep in cloying silt. At length the attempt is abandoned. Leaving a few elves on board the ship, now high and dry on the mudbank, the rest trek onwards, with their gear strapped to their backs. A long file of elves forces its way between the trees, deeper and deeper into the jungle. The elves are suffering in the humidity and heat. Their silvery armour is tarnished. Their pale skin burns under the scorching sun. Their faces are hidden under their hoods. The insects bite, and delirium takes its hold. It is a bad decision, made in haste and surprise, to shoot arrows at the skinks who suddenly appear from the trees. A small party of them are slain, transfixed with elven arrows. None are spared. None escape. Syrian and his elves emerge from the forest. They enter a broad, sunlit clearing. Beneath their feet, the ground is paved, and not even overgrown with weeds. As they continue into the center of the plaza, they look up at the great stepped pyramids, towering on all four sides of them. The stone gleams white in the sun. Strange carvings grimace down at them. The place is utterly deserted, yet pristine, as if some unforeseen catastrophe has overtaken the vanished inhabitants, leaving the city intact. For a long time the elves stay close together for fear of being ambushed. They make camp in the middle of the plaza, posting guards to keep watch throughout the dark night. The sun rises over the summit of the greatest pyramid. Rays of light shine between the obelisks and along the paved road, cutting the plaza like a golden knife from the sky and waking the elves. Several of their number are found to have perished overnight, from bites, stings, and sickness. Suddenly an eerie sound pierces the dawn. Syrian and the others gaze up to the platform of the nearest pyramid. They see a lone figure playing a strange tune upon the pipes. It is Hoxpox, greeting the sun, as has been custom of this place since the dawning of time. A foolish elf, crazed with the delirium, shoots an arrow. Hoxpox tumbles. His greeting for the sun is not finished. Syrian glares at the elf with the bow in his hands. His words of rebuke are unspoken. His eyes betray his dread. Syrian orders his warriors to search the city. He tells them, "If you find any scrolls, bring them to me. If you find any objects which have no obvious use as tools or weapons, bring them to me as well." The elves split up into small parties and set about searching the pyramid temples and the surrounding buildings. This takes a long time, and everyone is in fear of a sudden attack. The search is cursory, but various strange things are found. Plaques of gold are prized from the walls of a chamber on top of a lesser pyramid. These things are being shown to Syrian when another party of his followers approaches. "We have discovered something which you ought to see," they say. Syrian accompanies them across the plaza. They enter the portal of a large pyramid. Torches are lit, and the party files along the descending shafts. Lizardman glyphs and murals glimmer in the light of the torch as they pass by them. Then they enter a chamber deep beneath the pyramid. The entire chamber is filled with dazzling yellow light as soon as the torch passes through the door. The walls are covered in hundreds of gold plaques. Everywhere is the gleam of gold. Syrian gasps with wonder. His elves grin with satisfaction and no small amount of avarice. In the center of the chamber, set into the floor, is a circular hole that looks like a well. "What is that?" says Syrian. "We don't know," his men reply. "We came to fetch you as soon as we found this place. We have not yet been inside the chamber." Syrian steps through the portal and peers down into the well. Suddenly he lets out a loud cry of despair. His men shudder and feel the icy chill of terror in their hearts, despite the humid atmosphere of the chamber, where even the stones are sweating. Syrian backs away from the well and pushes his warriors back into the passage. Go back, he says. "What about the gold?" asks a plumed officer. "Leave it," replies Syrian, making his way in haste past the officer. The latter's mouth agape in disbelief. The party glance back into the chamber, then quickly follow their leader back through the passage and into the sunlight. A nasty sight meets their eyes as they emerge onto the plaza. The pavement is strewn with dead and stained with blood. Most of the bodies are elves, horribly slain. Syrian gazes in silence. His mind is clearly disturbed. There are no traces of any enemies. Another party of elves arrives in the plaza from the other side of the city. The plumed officer calls out, "What happened?" "We don't know," comes a reply. "We heard cries, so we came out as fast as we could." The two groups of elves meet. The plumed officer turns to Syrian. "They must be around here somewhere. What shall we do?" Syrian's mind is clearly elsewhere. Then he says, "Pick up everything we have found. Everything we can carry. Then we go." The elves set to work. Suddenly they hear the rhythmic beating of a drum and gaze up in the direction of the sound. A line of Saurus warriors armed with spears and shields of bronze emerges from out behind the Great Pyramid. The line wheels around perfectly in step and in utter silence, but for the beating of the drum. Then a second line appears, and a third. The elves look on in awe as the Saurus bear down upon them. They take whatever they have got in their hands. They run. They head across the plaza and into the jungle. Mage priest Silikonkani sits upon his palanquin within his chamber. Ishipoxi, the skink scribe, approaches. The mage priest blinks. "Speak," he commands, the skink waiting patiently before him. "Wise one, revered one, focus of tranquility. The strangers have left Traxan. Are they to be pursued?" The Slan is silent, and then he says, "Their leader has looked into the well of time. He should not have done such a thing." Ishipoxi replies, "Indeed, great one. Let us slay him." The Slan bestirs himself to utter once more, "Desist, impetuous one. His offense is his own chastisement. He has seen the doom of his own kind." A pitiful band of elves stagger out of the jungle and begin to make their way across an expanse of mud, baked and cracked by the relentless sun. They reach the ship, high and dry on the mud and held fast. The ship is little better than a wreck. The sail hangs in tatters. There is no sign of life. All those left to guard the ship have vanished. Syrian is demented. He rants and mutters to himself, declaring his intention to found a great trading port on this very spot. His troops ignore him. Under the direction of the plumed officer, they begin to make a raft from the timbers of their ship. It is many days later. The raft is complete. Syrian has assumed command again. The raft is drifting slowly along the great river. Flies buzz over the raft. High above, vultures are circling. The elves lie here and there, dead or dying. The head of one of them lolls over the side of the raft into the water. It is already a skull. Fish tear at the remnants of flesh adhering to the bone. The plumed officer sits, clutching his sword, awaiting death. Syrian is striding about on the raft, describing the great trading colony he is going to build, in all its splendid detail. He turns to his only surviving companion. "You don't believe me, do you?" he says. You think it will never happen, but you're wrong, I tell you. Wrong. You'll see. You'll see. A gold plaque slips into the water. The vision fades.